So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood was found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekings managed to cut his own hand. My guess is that he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. Okay. When you say it, you mean you even have an ass partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years ago have passed since the case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Now, if I have anything to do with it, that incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? The case is closed. Only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? His brother was involved. That day was my last chance. That's why I... Okay. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing the evidence, but it wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I sold out the morning of the incident. So that really was why he would start filling out that lost item report. I've turned his ID card. I've left it on the floor of the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean, the fingerprint activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker by yourself. But he could have because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled the knife on Officer Meekings and tried to drive him off. Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekings certainly is a one in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little more about his race this year. When did Edward should get so much influence? Anyway, threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him flat. Sorry that had to turn out that way. Like me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekings out, and... Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? Oh, accidentally. No, my bad. I thought I went for it a bit. He pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I don't plan on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins, certainly, yeah, I already read that before. Why'd I? So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think they would make a difference. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloody your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. Someone was in the security room when I came out. Jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? Sleep like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, well, the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. Were you blind? The victim shown on that tape was me. Now I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where's that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Far away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID? Injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. You can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not even salary cuts are even a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. Why? Can't just forget about the SL9 incident? But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember that Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend on complaining about how it turned out, but there's some that still bother me. Something went down there at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present with what I think is his real reason. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related to that case somehow. In some way, to that case. I better take another look at the files. Okay. Boy, that was a little bit of a longer one. No, I'm not gonna end here just yet. So I'm gonna present the SL9 incident. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. And a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you heard the name 2 years ago. Oh, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? Must be talking about the King of Prosecutors award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But this is in relation to you. He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then deputy of chief police. Oh, so he was the one on the bottom left. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Ugh. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to public records. What do you mean? My brothers couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing is for certain. Now we know what happened to the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day this SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with this resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to remain. At the exact same time as the murder at the prosecution's office. This big murder was going at the police department. Chance? It's gotta be more than that. So, if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason that the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department, which was brought up by, who was it? Damon Gant? Seems to me, this boy got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky, and the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Urgh. The other word could also be objection. I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The department murder on the security camera tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant.
Hold it. Your Honor, wait.
Emma,
The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right?
what do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor?
Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking you is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please.
I don't want to leave any loose ends. Want a minute? I'll give you 3.
I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings?
Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky sisters were in that file.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day? So I knew his fingerprints had nothing to do with the crime. And I left only one thing. The other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. And so, I ran over there and looked at it again.
So, did you find something?
No.
Huh?
Sorry. Guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all?
Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student.
I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clues we have. We can't find something else wrong with them. Please, Miss Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be more of use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Miss Wright. You don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If I ever needed to concentrate, it's now.
What could be wrong with that hamper on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
Could there be something I'm missing?
Obviously, you gotta object!
This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, that is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes. Something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
Let us pray that the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's gotta be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plan?
Well, we were told that there was something there that wasn't there before. So the thing that was not there before, that's there, not there now. That was there before. Here, this. What about that piece of plywood? The blue badger, the mascot of the police force, the defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the crime scene. Well,
what?
Ugh. That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint on the spot of the locker. What?
So that means, just what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma. On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in?
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had
had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves it when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well. Then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. And also, save must be presented as well. Proof that shows when the murder took place? There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? Which shows when the first crime took place. First evidence that shows it took place was this. The crime took place inside the evidence room. Then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. The only one that we haven't gotten recorded yet. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it could have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have been taking place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's take a look at the chart again. At 4:20, plays it. There's only one other card number remaining. 7777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went inside with 7. Must think of that. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I am unable to look up the owner of that ID. Is it Damon Gant? At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7 belonged to someone with a captain rank or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. That's ridiculous. Just how? Wait, hold on. Don't we have an ID? Like a guess ID that led us into that place before? Don't. Dang. I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's just one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official filed against an executive is accepted, an official charge. You're all like, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes. No, not to you. To her. Oh, not to you, to her. The defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7. Don't blame me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident. Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Ooh. Ooh. Oh, we're still continuing on. We're still continuing on with this. Holy cow. Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did.
Lana!
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me in the eye? And can you look at me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
But Lana...
Even if it involved forging evidence. Holy cow. Holy cow. See, that's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order, 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 order! Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial. I have to wait until the following day. Holy cow, evidence has been forged! And finding out what that evidence is will have to be find out next time. Oh god, we have more investigation to go through. But yeah, holy cow. She forged evidence. And that will have to be done at a later day. So, just a lot of pressure happening here. No, having Marshall, faking being, good man, just try to get evidence that's not really there, injuring Meekings, and having all this stuff happening. But yeah, next time on Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, we're gonna be investigating possibly this forgery thing that's happened, and possibly might start the trial, the final day of the trial, if it's short enough. If the investigation's short enough, you might be able to do that. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, favorite with all your friends. Check out links in the description below for all my social media links. And I will see you guys soon with my next video. Power out. Yeah.